Showtime. Dynamite download.
Dynamite download, your home for all positive coverage with all elite wrestling.
Oh, you guys, positive energy.
This reality, like, it is me.
This is what pro wrestling's supposed to feel like.
I've got like these creepy ass dudes saying I have a better record than Kenny Omega and Samoa Joe, and now I'm gonna have to wrestle them.
I've never seen someone able to break down like wrestling like he does.
I said, Mariah May, she said, who?
My real story does connect with a lot of people.
So that you need to be careful in the locker room.
I definitely think that women's wrestling has been elevated.
I was like deep diving into like cults.
I never say never about anything.
Yeah,
man.
Raw horse.
Raw horse?
Oh my God.
Amazing.
I had to smack him around a few times to fully gain his respect.
This is Brian Keith match.
Awesome.
This podcast is quite frankly the drizzling shit, if I'm being quite honest.
Did they spread positivity about AEW?
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Welcome to Dynamite Download, your source for positive coverage of all elite wrestling. I am Mind Runner, as Thunder Rosa likes to call me, Mid Runner. And with me, it's him, it's the SP.
What is up? Happy Thursday. Good seeing you, Mind. Everyone in the chat. Cheers. Thanks for joining us on Tuesday night for our little draft part 2 special. As we are on the final countdown to World's End. The world is going to be ending in approximately 23 days, culminating with the C2 finals, what's happening with the Moxley Death Rider saga. Who knows? The tag division's kind of just in limbo right now. There's a lot going on. Both titles with the women's division right now. There's some challengers stepping up, but we're seeing title matches before the pay-per-view. So looking ahead, I don't know much what we're going to see at World's End. Maybe next week's show, or if we have time today, we can kind of throw out some fantasy booking of what we see at World's End. But there's a lot to talk about. We had last week off because of Thanksgiving, and now we're back in the saddle. Episode 158, Dynamite Download, pushing through Merry Jolly Christmas season.
Yeah, end of the year's coming, and we might even have to bust out some really cool end of the year awards coming out here. AEW's on fire, like 9 out of 10. If Thunder was on, it would be a 10. That's our, I guess that's Brent, the Thunder Army. That's our version of the Tokyo Dome. You know how Meltzer would always add a star. It was in the Tokyo Dome. Yep, it was a 9 out of 10. It would have been 10 out of 10 if Thunder was on it. I think there's room for Thunder to be involved. We'll get to that, I'm sure, in just a little bit.
I was thinking, before we dive into the card, I just wanted to say something that when I was scrolling through our Twitter feed, someone brought up a good point on what AEW did differently this week versus previous weeks about the show flow, and especially early on where they were doing recaps of the C2, what happened, because just kind of keeping people engaged in the tournament. And a lot happens, a lot of wrestling's going on in this tournament. I mean, there's 12 wrestlers, and so I loved the recap where they were showing the undefeated wrestlers, and then they kind of highlighted the ones that were going to be featured later on in Dynamite, and so I liked all that. And then they recapped what happened on Collision, and so I liked the production that they added, which was a little bit different, and compliments to that. Appreciated that.
And that's what I love about the Continental Classic too. But I agree. I really like that they're keeping us updated on that, because it can get confusing and overwhelming, but I want to say they're dumbing it down, but they're not burying the headline. They're saying, hey, Shelton Benjamin versus Kyle Fletcher is about to happen. They're both undefeated. One of them's going to get an L this time, unless they do the both of them get a draw. But I love about the Continental Classic is you're getting high quality matches. You're getting all these different combinations, and yet even a loss is not going to kill them. I remember Eddie Kingston was the Cinderella story last time, but you had so many different possible combinations, and just because one wrestler gets an L this week, they might get the next win, they might pick it up, and I really like that everybody gets a chance to shine. But we're eating a buffet of awesome matches, and boy, did we have it this last night.
Yeah, and I have, luckily, I have two guys on my team that are in the C2 tournament. So
Yes.
they could be trading wins, trading losses, but at least we're going to be featured at the road to World's End and might give me some points, but we'll see. Let's see where we're at with the current standings as of Dynamite last.
Inching close, and I am not comfortable. I did break 40, but my guys are not on the show at all anymore, and so I'm kind of starting to scramble.
Well, your guy OC made a which is a little surprising and interesting to me, and he's going to be featured again next week in that tag match. Different feelings how I have about that, but something interesting about these standings. I'm looking at everyone's team right now. Brian has Claudio on his team and Brody, and so those are two guys that are. I mean, went toe to toe and had a fantastic match, but Claudio, the push with him right now has been really fun to watch, and starting to be one of the heavily early favorites of winning his group. And so potentially, if Claudio were to go on and to win this C2, that's 2 points at the pay-per-view right there, because he's having two matches. You have the semis, then the finals. So whoever wins the C2 is going to have a +2, which I think it happened once when we had that Christian Cage scenario where he cashed it in, and I forget what it was.
Cray have both of them? Like he had Adam Copeland
he had like a 3-point swing with that match or something like that. So that's a potential wild card in Brian's little pocket there. But same goes for me. Like if I get a +3 on the pay-per-view and the Kyle Fletcher decides to win, or Ricochet decides to win, that'd be a 5-point swing just with the bingo and one wrestler. So we're pushing. I mean, there's not much time left, so we'll see where we stand.
Question in the chat. Steven wants to know, in the Continental Classic, if they win, do they get 3 points or 1 point? We're still treating it, as far as our draft points, we're still treating it like one match. So even though Okada and Garcia got a draw, nobody got any points in our draft. So, like, Claudio only got 1 point last night, even though they're getting 3 points in the Continental Classic. The Continental Classic is different, because in the Continental Classic through AEW, they get 3 points if they win, or 1 point if it's a draw. They each get 1 point if they draw. But for our sake, we're keeping it simple. We're keeping these matches just like they have been. It's if they get the win, if they're part of the winning team, they get 1 point. And the Battle Royal, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, the win, because there were two winners, we gave them each a point because there were two winners. So we gave each of them 1 point. Not like how many people because if you try to do eliminations, then it gets so convoluted. So we just get declared.
Yeah, you'd be dishing out 10+ points essentially to random, smorgasbord of wrestlers.
Yeah,
and that's how there was a match. I think it was House of Black versus FTR and someone else, Daniel Garcia or something, and it was an elimination match.
Yeah,
and so you got pinned and got eliminated. So those pins did not count for points. It was the overall team winner.
Yeah.
And so on the stat sheet, if it says House of Black defeated, 4 teams, it doesn't mean they get a point per team or whatever it is. It's just adds cumulative on that.
Absolutely.
But that's a good question. And, I hope we get closer. I want it to be down to the wire for World's End. I want every match to count for that. So, and you never know, those +3 wild cards, if they give you 1 or 2 points throughout the rest of the time, that could be what makes a difference. But let's dive into last night's show, which was pretty jam-packed. I mean, this is the card that's over the next, essentially what's booked for throughout the week. And looking at all these matches, the C2 matches, and some of the Rampage matches. And, that was another thing that I was reading about, how I do feel like last year's tournament kind of felt rushed. And now that they're adding more of these matches to Rampage, making Rampage more of a tune-in type of show, like we were going to see Commander and Ricochet and Garcia and Beast Mortos. And so a lot of these matches are going to be spread out through all 3 shows. So you're not going to just have those generic squash matches per se on a Rampage. You're going to have some meaningful, good wrestling where the best wrestle. But last night, the card, I mean, we haven't seen a true tag team match since the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I guess the Outrunners had a match, but I mean, you're talking like top contenders type of tag team match. So
Outrunners are top contenders. Come on.
No, they are, but their opponent was Iron Savages. That was a quick work. You know what I mean? But
I do know what you mean.
I wonder what's going to happen moving towards World's End with this tag team division, because of this is so heavily focused on the Death Rider saga and the C2, which is a lot of fun. But kicking off the show with Shelton Benjamin and Kyle Fletcher, man, what are your thoughts on that match as it started to progress? Because I felt like it was a strategically slow build, but second half of the match, that was a quite impressive match, both ends, and I love the crowd aspect of it.
This was one of many of those must sees. When I found out, when I found out they were going to be in the same part of the Classic, I was saying, okay, I can't wait for this pair up, and then they gave it to us right away last night. It was everything I thought. I love that Shelton really is getting to shine and be the wrestler that he needed to be. And again, this is not a slam on WWE. We all know, though, that AEW's existence brought a lot of us back as fans that had left because of the way WWE was running at the time. That's not. I mean, I still say to this. I say now that currently the NXT's women's division is the best women's division in all of wrestling. They're really cooking over in WWE, but Shelton Benjamin didn't get a chance to be the Shelton Benjamin that he was, and he's getting to shine right now. He got to shine in this match, and I love that AEW, when one person's going to lose, they get a chance to still look good. This could have gone either way. Plus the ending with Kyle Fletcher grabbing the rope, that still is one of those things where this is something that can be run back. And again, don't count Shelton out. I mean, he's definitely got some W's in his future. I also love the segment later on where which is needed to happen. You needed to see MVP's reaction to Shelton getting the L, and then how they dealt with it. And I thought all of this was top notch. Kyle Fletcher again, Kyle the Viper Fletcher. I love this repackaging. I wasn't sure about it until he shaved his alpaca hair off. I'm really liking this new Kyle Fletcher, and I'm thumbs up. But this match raised the bar to the point where the rest of the matches were going to be pretty hard to keep up with it, because I agree. It was a methodical, slow start, but it was on purpose. But after, picture in picture and whatnot, or when we got to the last half of that match, it was phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to that a rematch of this at some point very soon.
No, you're spot on. I loved the ending, the last 5 to 7 minutes of the match.
Yeah.
And just the freaking dominating offense that Shelton has is so fun. And, I'll be first to admit, I didn't follow him much in WWE. So I that era and that stuff going on with him and MVP and Bobby then, I wasn't in tune as much, but I'm definitely tuned in right now with what Shelton and the MVP and the Hurt Syndicate are doing. Really some fun stuff early on in just the short time that they've been in AEW. That being said, man, I feel like there's no secret. These two guys are heavily favored to win it for Team Dynamite Download, and they delivered a great match. And I think the ending is kind of perfect. And, it's like looking at the talent depth of, I'll pull up the rankings of the rosters here, or of the tournament talent depth. It's almost like you want like the best people to be in these tournaments, but you're also essentially kind of selfishly, you kind of want to protect your favorites.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't want let's say, Ricochet, for example, you don't want him to take like 4 losses and only win 1 when he was almost undefeated going into this. And same with Ospreay. It's like, no one's going to go undefeated. That's why you get the draws that are protecting some people, but you got to be careful with your draws. And I feel like you can't overdo that. And so with Claudio already getting 6 points, like he's going up against Ospreay, Darby, and Commander. Honestly, like if you're pushing Claudio, I think the only loss, if anything, should be versus Ospreay. But Darby's been known to have those sneaky wins, just kind of like, what we saw with Fletcher cheating. I don't think Darby wouldn't cheat because he's a good guy through and through, but he will do that, crucifix bomb to pin to mousetrap to whatever he decides to do, roll up to win. And then same thing over here on the blue league here. They already protected Garcia and Okada, but this isn't one of those. It's like you got to be very selective because you have 2 champions right now in this one, which is kind of interesting. So where do you see both? Like I could definitely see Garcia losing 2 or 3 of these matches, but at the end of the tournament, I feel like then you can have almost a rematch with those people he lost for the title. That way you start a feud instantly. Like, I beat you in the tournament. This title should be mine. All right, let's put it on the line and let's have a TNT championship match. So I feel like that way you can kind of protect Garcia for redemption. Okada, I mean, he's got 11 other guys coming for him, so he's public enemy number 1 in this tournament essentially. So,
and I like that the burden of winning is on Okada. I do like that he. They probably could have spent a little time on the narrative, like maybe say, all right, he gets to pick which league he's in, and then he chose Blue League. Yeah. But I love that he's having that. It's not like the winner of this has to then face Okada. It's Okada has to earn back his belt in the Continental Classic. I do love that. What another thing I like about the Continental Classic, and kind of what you were touching on, to your point, is it's kind of like paper, rock, scissors, where Fletcher just beat Shelton Benjamin. Benjamin can then beat Garcia. Garcia might beat Fletcher. So now you've got like this triangle of I beat you, but he beat me, but you beat him. So it's like, everybody still kind of looks good, but also everybody's humble. Nobody's perfect. I also like what you're saying about you got to be careful with your draws. Because if you do too many draws, it's going to get old and people are going to get tired. But I think that was a good way to start that one with Okada and Garcia, because otherwise, if Garcia lost, you couldn't have Okada lose right away in his first match. But also Garcia losing his first match, he needed to come out. He needed to look strong, at least on par with Okada, and I think that was the right move. And I think there's going to be a lot of shifts in these numbers here. There's going to be some upsets, and I love that, because I don't think anybody's going to goose egg. I think you might see Mark Briscoe upset a few people. I think that the one thing that I think they dropped the ball on, and I understand you have to pivot, you have to swerve, but you swerve. But I understand the situation they were in, but they could have still done something. There should have been some story with Commander. And what they should have done is on Dynamite, I think, is have like a fatal 4-way with Commander and 3 other guys, and put named guys, like put big time guys. You could have put, instead of that Dynamite ring Battle Royal, or they could have still kept that, but you could have put 3 other named guys and Commander, and the winner gets to replace Juice Robinson, and then have the surprise that shocked everybody. Commander wins the spot. Now he's going into this tournament with momentum.
Great point.
Rather than just being just randomly, oh, by the way, here's a tweet from Tony Khan. Show how he earned it, because I don't think Commander has won a single. Yeah, you put Buddy Matthews,
especially with that momentum after the pay-per-view. Buddy Matthews would have been an awesome shoe-in, even though he's part of House of Black with Brody.
Yeah, you could have put Buddy Matthews, and that would have built tension. Buddy Matthews, you could have put Anthony Bowens, you could have put, you could have picked. There's at least 3 other guys you could have put in that match, and then for whatever reason, Commander ends up getting the win, and people freak out, and it's like, oh, he's gonna, and you could give him that push.
I love that idea of just maybe they were handcuffed on timing and not knowing what was up with Juice, but I totally agree. They could have stalled one of those matches until that 4-way, or made him wrestle twice. Like the winner of this 4-way is going to wrestle in the main event tonight versus, whomever is scheduled to do. So I think that would have been a great way for us to appreciate Commander more. And I mean, you picked Nick Wayne on your original fantasy booking on that as well. I mean, it could have been any, I'm nothing against Commander. I think he's going to have some awesome matches. I think his momentum over the last few months has been really fun. And I think he's one of those guys, like if it wasn't him, I'm sure Hologram would have been in there or something like that. But let's shift to that main event. Brody.
Real quick, I got to ask a question. Is Ricochet in the same league as Commander?
Yes, they're fighting on Friday. So
that's
I didn't read. I just read a few things that match was everything you expected it to be, but it's on Rampage tomorrow.
All right. Well, let's talk. Let's talk about this one because this was the other one.
Main event.
There were matchups that I was looking forward to, but I thought they were going to wait till the end because I thought they were going to face other people. But they gave us Shelton Benjamin and Kyle Fletcher at the beginning of this show, and then they gave us Brody King versus Claudio. Damn, meat.
Essentially, those 2 matches on both leagues could have been the finals of the C2 tournament.
Yep.
So yes, they're giving us some marquee stuff early on. That is for sure with these ones. And 2 guys that are undefeated, Fletcher and Claudio, right now in both their respective leagues. I think this match, I'm loving the Claudio push. I think once again over the last few months, like since he's joined the Death Riders, some of the matches he's been having and just some of his attitude shift. And, ever since that Darby match, which was a couple matches ago, I was just leaps and bounds of just like head over heels of just impressed with what he's doing. And so they're going to have a rematch. And so that's kind of setting up for, I feel like Darby could probably steal a win, trade a win back against Claudio in this one. But what are your thoughts on the main event?
Exactly that main event. I also kind of liked the tease where last week where Brody was leaving, and then here comes the Death Riders for Darby, or Claudio for Darby, and then Brody King went back in the ring. That I like. They got to do something with House of Black. I mean, Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, Brody King. People want them to be doing something, and I don't know if I'm sure there's backstage stuff we don't know about. It's beyond our pay grade, but
sure.
Brody King, this is such a good matchup. Just like the Shelton Benjamin Kyle Fletcher was a great matchup. This is such one of those great matchups where you just know the chemistry before it cooks. And this was definitely cooking. And I hope we get to see this again. I'd like to see, some people are thinking that the Hurt Syndicate's going to end up being one of the factions that faces the Death Riders. I think it'd be it'd be compelling if the House of Black becomes the ones that rise up and finally stand up against the Death Riders, because you got Julia Hart versus Marina Shafir.
Right.
You got Brody King and Claudio already. You got Moxley versus Malachi. You got Buddy Matthews versus Pac. Wheeler versus I don't know, Tippy the dog. I don't know. We could come up with something for Wheeler to do. But I think this would be great. I think this is great. And this was fantastic. It was every bit of beef and meat that you thought it was going to be. And Brody, and again, Claudio getting the W still didn't take away from Brody King.
No, and everyone's pretty well protected mostly in this tournament, unless you do get a goose egg. But that being said, that pairing with that, shifting to what you just kind of said about Wheeler, even the commentary team was kind of leaning in towards or I think Daddy Magic, someone said something along the lines of the way they're treating Wheeler. It's been kind of interesting the way they've been treating him, and
Stockholm syndrome.
And there's questions, a lot of questions that need to be answered with that treatment. So I don't know what that's going to happen. I mean, we saw that little promo or vignette with the Death Riders out in the desert with a road flare. And so some people online are saying, does this mean, they need help? Does this mean like this is the end of the road, or what does this mean? To me, if you pump the brakes on the Death Riders this early, it would have been one of the biggest misses, period. Yeah. I feel like they're starting to have a little bit of retreat right now because of just power numbers. Now is the time they should recruit 3 more people. They should be NWO style recruiting, and they're going to have whatever rumors of World's End, potential of Fatal 4-Way, if that's even going to happen. I mean, you have targets on the back of the Death Riders. Key ones, obviously, Jay White, Orange Cassidy looking again, Christian Cage, and others. So I feel like this would be a great opportunity for them to add more members, to add reinforcements. They're sending out the road flare to send in the cavalry to run havoc even more, because the way they started to where they are now, I'm kind of disappointed a little bit in the slowness of the domination that they've been having.
Interesting.
I want more.
I mean, and there's several ways we could go on that. One, it's interesting that I as much as I love the Continental Classic, I don't ever want it to take away from the tag team division. They're not doing anything with the trios, by the way. That's just kind of went by the wayside. They should. I mean, their storyline maybe should push something like that. But also, I don't want it to turn into, because NWO got out of control. They started recruiting everybody into NWO, right. And then it became the split between the Wolfpack and the other group, Hollywood group. But I do think, at least add a couple more. I like what Steven says in the chat. Jack Perry. I think Jack Perry, with the EVPs gone, I could see Jack, especially with Mox going, hey, good, you're a good kid or something like that. I could see Jack Perry joining them. I think it'd be compelling to see if one of these guys that has up till now been seen as a face turn and join the Death Riders. Maybe Daniel Garcia, I mean, maybe somebody like that turning and joining the Death Riders might be a lot more compelling, and somebody that maybe needs a little extra thing. I also I've really gotten to the point now where, especially based on what she said at the end of her match with Penelope Ford when Serena Deeb came out, Britt Baker kind of disappointed me with verbally being loud and saying nobody cares, and I thought that was kind of low class. But that, not to take away from the fandom I've had of her. I mean, I've been that Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker fan, but I think that Britt Baker would be great to send her to WWE. I think she would actually get a good fresh start in WWE, maybe NXT, maybe not. But then I think what we need, it would be compelling, is then bring over one of Marina Shafir's best friends who's struggling in the WWE right now to get her storyline, is bring over Shayna Baszler and bring Shayna Baszler in to the Death Riders as another female recruit, and have her be this beast that she never got to be in the WWE. I also do like, I'm not so much Miro. I know Miro, I think he's kind of done. Wardlow would be, we talked about this before, Wardlow I think would be an interesting recruit as well. Lee Moriarty, definitely. I think I like the idea of bringing up some of these young guys, but they've got to prove themselves. Kind of like how Wheeler had to, you got to have that William Regal spirit where you almost got to get your ass beat in order to be, you got to get, what did they say, jumped in, like Hell's Angels biker group. You got to get jumped into a gang, something like that. Anyways, those are just my thoughts.
I think there should be a couple options. Yes, I would love Wardlow. That'd be a great opportunity, as we've spoken about this before on some of our other shows. Perry seemed like kind of a shoo-in, essentially, the way he was, stand alone, still in that little interaction they had months ago before the Death Riders were the Death Riders. And then or you can find some. Is there like a big tag team that just kind of is not doing anything right now? Like, I would love to have Wardlow come in and wreak havoc. Jack Perry, I think, would be good just because of his character and his attitude. But I almost want like some beasts. Obviously it's not going to be Murderhawk and Brian Cage, but like, is there a true tag team that could come in and do that?
What's
FTR
the Gates of
turning
Agony
heel?
doing? What's the Gates of Agony doing?
Yeah, Gates of Agony, I think, would be good. FTR turning heel, like they did with the Pinnacle. I don't know. Anything's possible. But speaking of anything's possible, little predictable, but the Battle Royal for the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal for the Diamond Ring, which is going to hold on, let me pull something else up first. The rules of this and the outcomes and everything, it was a little bit, I think, overbooked in my opinion. And so, yes, a typical Battle Royal, and then they face each other next week, and then the winner of that World's End. So I feel like that's just like a kind of a cop out of, unless someone costs Adam Cole the match, I think it's kind of a cop out of them building to the Adam Cole MJF head. Like if Adam Cole and MJF are fighting for this diamond ring, like that to me adds nothing to the story. So what do you take of this after the results that we saw, which were pretty much predictable?
All right. I know we are your source for positive AEW coverage. That does not mean it's free of criticism. And I got a hot take here.
All right. Give it to me.
Now, I first of all, of course, if this is going to ultimately end up as Adam Cole versus MJF, then they don't know then they are off the rails with this story. They're forcing it down. This is pre-tribal chief Roman Reigns style forcing down our throats. All they need to do is have The Rock come out and try to get him over. This is not working at all. Somebody's saying, okay, Steven says in the chat, might turn into a three-way. I think the only way to go at this point is for Kyle O'Reilly to beat Adam Cole and for it to be Adam Cole versus MJF. But I think Steven's right. I think they're going to make it a three-way. Here's my beef. Here's my problem. And this is why I feel like sometimes it feels like it's thrown together. If you look at everyone else in the Battle Royal was either a tag team partner or somebody, pretty much that more than half of the participants in the Battle Royal was a tag team or part of a faction that hasn't been, and a lot of them have not been on TV. Evil Uno. In fact, the only storyline there was a storyline that they could have even milked if they maybe move this to another night or something. Evil Uno does that podcast or that Twitch stream with Adam Cole for playing video games. So they could have at least done like a segment with that early on, just a quick 30-second, 20-second little segment. But granted, I always love to see Murderhawk and I love to see Brian Cage, but I think this was an opportunity where they could have actually done a pivot, put some of the younger guys, put a Lee Moriarty in there, put some of these younger guys that haven't had a really chance to fully shine. And I think they could have had a moment where Kyle O'Reilly eliminates Adam Cole. Because then now Kyle's saying, listen, I got this now. I'm going to go from Jeff. You could have still had Kyle O'Reilly be one of the two that wins, but let Butcher. Butcher doesn't have the blade. Butcher is typically one of the last guys in these battle royals. Heck, you could have had Brian Cage, and you could have had, what would have also been compelling is if Adam Cole pulls out Kyle O'Reilly, then have Brian Cage and the Murderhawk be the final two, and then now they have to face each other. And we get our dream match, of course, that we've been pushing for.
You're right.
But
there we go.
Having Top Flight in the match, Action Andretti. I mean, Leo Rush would have been another person I could have seen winning and given a chance. But to me, it just felt like, oh, crap, we got to fill this with wrestlers.
Yeah.
And it also spoke to that you're not doing anything with your tag teams right now. That's why that's why there's so many of those guys. I think they could have gone a different way. I would rather see an Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly for their friendship match separate from the winner of this taking on MJF.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Unfortunately, I've always never really been a true fan of like this Diamond Ring tournament thing. Like MJF fits it so well. I could not see someone else with it. Like, because what kind of, it's a stooge gimmick thing, and MJF makes it that, and it's been his crutch for a lot of matches. So I don't know. I just this kind of was not my favorite part of the night, even though I'm a huge Battle Royal fan.
Yeah,
and
it was obvious who was going to win.
It was too overbooked and too obvious with the results.
And not to just jump, if I could just jump in there too, like MJF has to win that ring every time. There's nobody that's worthy of winning it yet. We got close with Wardlow. Like Wardlow, and arguably at the time when he was over CM Punk, you could almost argue, but until we get somebody that is worthy of winning that from MJF, it's got to be MJF. But we could still have a really compelling match and storyline that leads up to it.
Or it could have been a 12 wrestlers full of MJF's previous enemies.
Yeah,
I
don't know what they're doing.
One of his enemies. And one of his frenemies or friends, former friend, was the Nueve himself, Jericho, reporting live with the New York Minute from Beantown, from Sin City, from all the places everywhere but New York, promoting the Hammerstein show.
I love that.
Hammerstein show. I thought this was. I'm still a fan of this gimmick with Jericho. I think it's just cheesy and over the top. You got to take it with a grain of salt. Like, just take it and enjoy it. Like, it's one of those things where early on when the Acclaimed was doing the scissor me stuff, like it's like ridiculous, but you take it and enjoy it, then you learn to love it. And I feel like this gimmick is still, that's what it's all about. And he's just being super cheesy, but he delivered a great promo, and exactly like what we were talking off air of what needed to be happening. If you want to push eyes to Ring of Honor, force people to go watch him either win, put on segments, or get beat. And they were setting up the Final Battle pay-per-view for Ring of Honor in the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. And spoilers, cover your ears if you don't want spoilers. Who came out? Mr. New York, Mr. Deathmatch himself.
Matt Cardona
is going to be facing him in New York City for the ROH title. So if you've been following the drama going around with GCW and Ricky Starks and Cardona calling him out and the match that got canceled. So this is an interesting, I feel like a check, not necessarily checkmate, that Tony Khan's moving some of his chess pieces by booking this match like this. I think it's great. And Cardona, in his time that we've seen him in AEW, he's had awesome matches. He's doing great on the independent stuff. So I'm really curious how this one's. And this booking that match is something where I'd want to tune in for Ring of Honor.
Absolutely. I mean, like we talked about, this was such a smart move. You and I argued before that, not argued, but we agreed that this could have been a move done earlier, but I think this was the right move, especially if they're pushing to get a television deal.
Right.
But I'm of two intuitions about this whole thing, because with Matt Cardona, his independent run after leaving WWE needs to be studied. Because, in fact, he should teach a class, because he's kind of like the Wolf of Wall Street of independent wrestling. He has made a lucrative living. Now, granted, some of that's Chelsea Green, but it's him. And, he's got the podcast, the Figure Podcast, and the amount of money he spends on figures, he's got some loot to spend. But he has been tremendous about building this up. Plus, he knows the business so well that he turned that whole Ricky Starks thing around into like saying that he got Ricky Starks pulled. He used his clout, and then he shows up here. So he's making it seem like he did it. But my only thing is I hope, because there's a lot of idiots online that like to badmouth. They like to see the worst in AEW. They've got to, what have you, and we see them all the time.
Basement troll.
Only thing I just am a little concerned about, I hope that pulling Ricky Starks and then booking Cardona wasn't a spiteful move on Tony Khan's part. I want to believe that this is actually maybe something that could lead to Ricky coming back.
That's one of those swerves that it could be like after the match, Ricky comes and confronts Cardona and they make him fight on ROH TV and they're bringing more eyes that were already excited about that match. That would be like a checkmate there.
Yeah, which you could still have them later on do the GCWs later on, but
Sure.
but now you've got more eyes on it.
Sure.
That would be the smart booking, because then you can, and then there's so much talent on GCW. I do know that I think some of it had to do with some comments Effie made on his podcast. But if you're worried about what Effie's going to say on Effie's podcast, you don't listen. You must not listen to his podcast, because he's going to say what he's going to say, and Effie's Effie. Effie's going to Effie. But Ricky Starks, that would
be awesome if he came back at Ring of Honor Final Battle. I think if not then when. There's a lot of buzz going on with Ricky right now, and him to be maybe, I don't necessarily know if Cardona would win, but if he does, then cool, good for him. But if not, then he could challenge Jericho after he fights Cardona. Well, I don't know.
Brilliant. That's brilliant, because Cardona's going to be a one-off. Let's be honest. He's not going to win the ROH. I don't think he's going to win the ROH. But Cardona defeats Jericho, and then the Revolution is televised, because ROH has got a televised deal.
Yeah, there you go. That would bring some. Yeah,
I'm right here. Boom. Yes.
That would be awesome. Yes,
I tell you, I would tune in.
The wheels are turning. We're booking some fantasy bookings here on it. I like it. I like it. So let's move over to the women's division. Still got some stuff to cover here from last night's Dynamite. Anna Jay versus Penelope Ford, and Penelope was definitely one of the waiver wire pickups in our draft, high up there. Your thoughts on this match, Mindrunner? And in the chat, let us know what you thought of this match. I had high expectations.
I had high expectations as well. I thought Penelope looked great. As always, I think, people are looking for some ring rust. I don't think she has it. Because she has that natural gymnast ability. And I will say, Anna Jay has come back from Japan and at another level. I felt like this match was a little off. I think there are a couple of times where Anna almost popped out of her top, and I think that may have distracted her, because there are a couple of times where she kept doing this. And there was one time she took a hit, and I'm not saying I saw anything, but there was that feeling like, did I just see? No, I didn't. But I didn't wind it back. I didn't wind it back and pause at all. But the thing is this with Anna Jay is, I want her to succeed. I want the women's division in AEW to succeed. There is still so much talent that's there. I don't think anybody's really developed sitting down and planning out anything long-term with the women's division. It almost is back to that afterthought feeling it used to be. And it's a shame, because I feel like it's regressed a little bit, especially now when you have someone like Penelope Ford who can do the things that she can do in the ring. You have a Lady Frost, you have Queen Aminata, you have these talents that could go. I mean, what we're getting, Anna Jay versus Mercedes Moné again. I don't care for that. I mean, I actually would be more compelled to see a Penelope Ford versus Mercedes Moné than Anna Jay. Now, granted, I'm not bashing Anna Jay. She gets enough bashing from the IWC, and I think a lot of it's unfair. I think she's really blossomed. I liked her when she was in Dark Order, and she's tremendous. And I could actually see Mercedes dropping the TBS title to Anna Jay, and whatever they're going to do with Camille, which that's a whole other thing we can talk about. But
Camille costing her the title?
Yeah, Camille costing Mercedes the title. I could see Anna Jay doing a TBS run, but then have someone
really
like a Penelope.
Anna Jay.
They're really getting behind Anna Jay. I don't know what's going to, but again, you have Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
You have Penelope Ford. Granted, it looks like Willow's going to take on Marina Shafir, whatever, but you've got these other talents. You've got Julia Hart coming back. You've got Queen Aminata. I know they're probably going to keep her at Ring of Honor for the TV deal, but eventually Athena's got to drop that title and come back over to the AEW roster. And I think that's going to be a pop moment.
Right.
But yeah, there's so much other talent out there that I'm just surprised that we're going Anna Jay versus Mercedes again, unless this is another situation like they had with the Young Bucks and Private Party, where they realized, yeah, we messed up. We should have dropped it to Anna Jay back then, but now we're gonna drop it to Anna Jay now, and then Mercedes is gonna fight Camille, and Anna Jay is gonna feud with somebody else. But for crying out loud, you've got Penelope freaking Ford. Do more than just have her wrestle just these little matches.
Yeah, I mean, it showed in this match to me. First off, let's preface second what you say. Anna Jay's growth has been fantastic to watch. For AEW, essentially building new stars, and that's what they're doing. And they're giving them opportunities, but I just don't see it in Anna Jay yet. I still don't see it. Like she's uncomfortable on the mic still, which is fine. You're still growing, and I just don't think. Of the two, she was not holding her own essentially in the ring. Penelope Ford was leaps and bounds above her, in my opinion. So I think if you had Anna Jay beat one of your biggest signings ever in AEW for a title match on a non-pay-per-view, that would be the wrong move, especially after the match that Mercedes had with Statlander recently, which was one of the best women's matches in AEW period, and then she's gonna not get not defended against Anna Jay. So I'll move on from that and just focus on the positives here with Penelope Ford. Like, yes, when she came back recently and had a great match, and it's so time and time again with her, it's like she's the quarterback of the match, whether you're on offense or defense, and she's so good at being that. And if there's a missed move or a missed opportunity, she can audible really quick, and you could see the experience and the professionalism and the skill that she has, and it should be focused more on AEW.
You could, like, if I didn't know that Penelope Ford had been gone for over 2 years from wrestling, I wouldn't have noticed. Like she was a veteran in that ring. And, my favorite Penelope spots, one, I love when she does the back bend thing. I love when she does the cartwheels in the ring and then does the hit, But the other thing that Penelope understands that I'm surprised a lot of wrestlers don't keep in mind is she knows how to emote. This is one of the things I love about Swerve Strickland and the like, is that they know how to all react and act in the ring without, pantomime. She does the faces. She does those, like when she got the lockjaw or whatever from Britt Baker, she didn't just go, she went, like she was screaming bloody murder. And that's what you need. But see, this is, again, Harley Cameron's another one. I think Harley Cameron she's paying her dues right now, but there's going to be a moment where things are going to turn for Harley Cameron. Harley Cameron has already been marked by not just both, but QT Marshall loves her because he had her on the QTV.
Right.
But also Harley Cameron's getting a lot of praise also from Dax and Dax Harwood, but also Bully Ray has been really speaking highly of her. So she's getting noticed, not just by us. Right. I think we could see a Harley Cameron push at some point. I think it'd be compelling to see Penelope Ford maybe link up with Harley and maybe even Soraya when she's done doing whatever else she's doing. But
where is she?
I think she just opened a Patreon. I don't know if she's injured or not.
Okay.
But it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen there. But Harley is compelling to watch as well.
Yeah.
And it pains me because I feel like, when you look at the NXT women's division compared to AEW, I think talent-wise, AEW actually has better veterans and has a lot more to offer, but they're running their storylines in NXT so well. And I feel like in the women's division, AEW is still kind of that afterthought. I understand that the Virtuosa and Taya Valkyrie are having a squash tag match, or they're in action.
The Vendetta.
This is okay. You've got these tandems pull the trigger and do a women's tag team title. I mean, they just opened 2 new women's titles in WWE, and they weren't ready. I don't think WWE's women's division was ready for that, but they did it anyways. And that actually, I think it's kind of like that. If you build it, they will come. If you have women, of course. Now I'm contradicting myself because AEW is not doing anything with the men's tag team titles right now.
So it'd just be buried, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I love AEW. Don't get me wrong. This is like nitpicking stuff, but I feel like the women's division has some areas of opportunity.
It's a hot button. I mean, there's some good stuff going on, like the feud with Mina and our champ
Mariah May.
May. Yes, thank you. Is good stuff. I think Monet has been doing good stuff, all things considered, who she's been pairing with, like in the ring. Curious of what happens, now that Camille's gone. You talk about the hater heart stuff when it comes to head is going to be really great stuff. And then you have Willow potentially, fighting Marina. So I feel like there's some stuff cooking for sure. And there's still a lot of talent that's not being used. But let's talk. You said tag teams titles, tag teams not being used. Former tag team champs, now potentially singles guy, Max Caster going against Swerve after talking smack. Awesome rap heading out to the ring.
Yeah,
I think this is exactly what happened or what needed to happen in this match with Swerve. The crowd was so into Swerve, and it was fantastic. Mm-hmm. It was great. That not that it's never not, but this was a perfect mini build to this match because it got us to hate Caster even more, and so it really played on that heel versus babyface saga in this match. And if this was a glimpse of what Caster's singles run would have been like, then it's like, ooh, I don't know. Not to say he couldn't do it, but Swerve made quick work with him. Did he ever?
This went exactly how it should have gone. This was smart booking.
Yeah.
This was incredible booking. And I know he's getting hate, but Max Caster is playing his role brilliantly. We know we've been hearing him like slowly drop the best wrestler alive gimmick for months now. Mm-hmm. And it's really coming to a head. Of course, Bowens and Daddy Ass have been, they're playing their role too. But with that whole card with MVP, it's gotten to his head. This best wrestler alive gimmick, it works great. It wouldn't work if Max Caster had a really decent match with Swerve. I mean, if he held his own with Swerve, it wouldn't work. And it wouldn't work if he got squashed and didn't have this best wrestler alive gimmick going. But the combination of him coming out with a great rap, but this whole best wrestler alive, like, I got this, don't worry. And he got his ass kicked by Swerve, which legitimately, former champion, probably one of the top guy, probably top 3 in the business right now. He got his ass kicked. Yes, I think this is great story building. It was a great opportunity for Swerve to, continue that Bobby Lashley feud and everything and what's going on. But I think what Caster's doing, this is brilliant. Plus, so once this happens, once the Acclaim breaks up, you need to strap a rocket to Anthony Bowens and send him to the frickin' moon, because Bowens is going to be tremendous as a singles wrestler. But anyways, I thought this was great. And I thought, of course, Swerve is always great to watch. Again, Swerve is another one of those wrestlers that can emote. He can do a lot of stuff. He understands the business. But I thought this was very, for what it was a very well placed and well played event, a matchup, and I thought it was great. Ooh, I like this.
That's a good point right there. That would be interesting. Yeah, World's End, Friendship Ends. So it's like you can build that for that right there. Yes, to iterate that. I mean, this is a perfect booking for Swerve, and I do see a rematch heading into World's End with Bobby Lashley, or even maybe he challenges MVP or someone from the Hurt Syndicate. I feel like this feud has still got a lot of meat left on the bones for redemption. Team Babyface needs him right now because there's not too many red hot babyfaces on Team Babyface, and Swerve's the guy right now. There's no more no more Danielson. OC's been dismantled. Jay White's got some decent pops, but I don't feel like he's like the leader of Team Babyface per se. But it was to circle back on the beginning of the show. It was in the cheers in the crowd. The thing about the Continental Classic, like you have someone you're almost cheering for the less hated guy, and that's kind of what Shelton Benjamin got. He got almost the babyface treatment because I felt like the fans were so smart with who they're rooting for because they know how good he is in the ring and how excited we are to have him on Team AEW. So like even though he's booed because he's part of the Hurt Syndicate, the bad guys, but he got cheered because of the appreciation of wrestling.
Don Callis is a cockroach in the punch bowl. Don Callis is a cockroach in the punch bowl. If the Don Callis factor will make you boo anybody. If Don, all right, I'm gonna let's try this out. Let's test that hypothesis.
Riddle me this.
Don Callis started managing Rio would get booed.
You think Rio's the number one babyface ever?
Well, hey, all I gotta say is whenever NXT started beating AEW in the ratings, Rio showed up.
You're right. All right.
But I mean, no, but Riho's one of those wrestlers that that's how do you want to get heat? Beat up Riho, push Tony Schiavone, beat up Riho, or join Don Callis. Those are the three main ways, or talk about someone's dead father. Those are the four ways to get serious heat in AEW.
Yeah, I miss those lethal Christian Cage promos. Even his aura and his just walking in the ring and just all what he does is really great, but I miss those lethal promos.
Yeah, but he's always did you notice how they did the camera work? He was standing there by the entrance. All this crap is going on, and there he is.
Lurking in the back.
Just standing there with his contract.
Yep.
I love it. I
don't know what's going to happen with that contract. That'd be maybe he cashes in World's End finally, or whatever it may be. But that will be hopefully an awesome time where he has that belt and just goes on some over.
Can I overbook? Can I overbook for a second?
Yeah.
Whoever beats Moxley,
whenever
Christian's going to cash in, right? He's gonna try. He's almost gonna get the win, and then you think you know him.
Oh.
Adam Copeland's gonna keep Christian from winning his cash in.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. Well, as we're wrapping up this episode, thanks everyone. We're just gonna throw up the rankings once again. If you missed it at the beginning of our show, here's where we stand as we're on the road to World's End. We got about 23 days until World's End. Anything can happen, and we're gonna have some great matches coming up. Rampage is not necessarily what you think it is anymore. The next few weeks coming up are going to be just some really good, high quality matches. So maybe some people can pick up some ground with some Rampage matches. And yes, Pac versus White was match of the night. Totally agree with that one. But a lot's happening in AEW. I'm loving the tournament so far. I love the focus on it. But also, selfishly, I want to see some stuff going on with the tag or trios divisions because I'm a big tag team guy, and as well as a trios guy. So I really want to see something reunite. Start immediately. Give us Private Party. I don't want them to give you any points, but I want to see some teams established. I thought that we were going to get the resurgence of the tag division when they had that battle royal.
Yeah,
and it was like the Casino Gauntlet battle royal tag team match, and I thought we were really going to start to see it there, and then it fizzled out, sadly. But, well, that's my wish for Santa Claus is to bring us a great tag division featured more.
And don't give us Cole and not Adam Cole.
Yeah, no Cole, please, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week on episode 159 Thursday. Stay tuned. We'll update the rankings throughout the week as well. We'll post them. We'll send them out on social. We'll show you guys the rankings as they start to pan out over Rampage and Collision and leading up to next week's. Is next week Winter's coming?
I think, next week is Winter's coming, and then it's the sleigh bells of slaughter or something. I don't know, some kind of Christmas theme.
It's going to be a fun month of wrestling, that's for
Yes.
sure.
All right.
All right. See y'all.
Bye.